DA leadership contender Mbali Ntuli says she's not dependent on the political capital of federal chairperson Helen Zille to win her campaign. In a wide-ranging exclusive interview with Newzroom Afrika, Ntuli says she wants to lead the party because she believes her approach will be different to that of the current leadership, which doesn't allow debate. She's warned that if she is pushed, or rather if push comes to shove, she's willing to leave the party. Joining us now is our senior politics reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who sat down with Ntuli. Good evening, and it's good to have you with us.
Hi, Tabu. Thank you.
Now, earlier on, we heard that Mbali Ntuli released a scathing letter to the Federal Council, internal letter, about her views on what is happening in that leadership. Now, take us through this running. How is she feeling about her running for leadership in the party?
So she's feeling confident, she's feeling good, as you've already alluded to. She says she doesn't need, Helen Zille's support to win the campaign. And it's, of course, important to mention Helen Zille because when Helen returned to her return to the DA in 2019 after Musi Maimane had left, and then she came back as federal council chairperson, that rattled and ruffled a few feathers within the organization to say, oh, this is evident that the party wants to go back to being a white minority party, and that the space for black leaders would not be there. So we've also known over the years the relationship that Mbali Ntuli and Helen Zille have shared. It's been tumultuous, and it's been, they've had public fallouts, with one another. And Mbali Ntuli says the environment within the Democratic Alliance, for all intents and purposes, is toxic, and that a change needs to come about, even more so now that the party prepares to go or ahead of the local government elections next year.
Without revealing too much of your conversation, of course, we'll be tuned in tomorrow to check it out at 8 o'clock. How does she feel that those kind of utterances and that public, tussle between her and the leadership will affect her campaign in any way for top leadership?
Well, I mean, they haven't had a public spat recently, but the main thing that Mbali Ntuli is speaking about is the Federal Legal Commission being used or being politicized. And so she's lamented the fact that, when charges are brought against leaders or members, it's not consistent with how others are treated. So in that way, it's been politicized. And the most, easy example, top of mind, is when Helen Zille tweets, for an example, about colonialism, and that colonialism wasn't all that bad, versus when Mbali Ntuli also, speaks about colonialism and perhaps the party needs to think about race in a different way. Now, Mbali Ntuli, has been in the DA for 14 years, and she reflects on those 14 years. And I asked her then what it would mean if she loses, of course, this leadership race, and if she had to be under the leadership of John Steenhuisen. And for her, I mean, quite frankly, she said no one should be forced to stay in a party, and that she'd be willing to leave. But if you don't believe me, let's listen to this bite.
With everything that I've been through in the DA, false charges, numerous, isolation in certain aspects, there's absolutely nothing that has made me leave, because I've always felt that it's important to try and change the party internally. That being said, it's going to depend on how the party tries to continue its leadership. And I don't think that anyone should ever feel beholden to a party. What you are beholden to is a cause, and that cause is about making sure that South Africa actually works and is able to be a democracy that functions. So if I see that the leadership perhaps takes the party in a different direction that I don't think will achieve that, I feel very well within my rights, after 14 years of giving up my life to this party, if I need to walk away. But that won't be because I've lost the election. That will be because I feel that there's another way to better service the cause for South Africa. And I think it's very important that people realize that, because there's no need for anyone to feel beholden to any political party, because at certain aspects and certain times, political parties can become the personalities of their leaders.
Sounds like fireworks. I can't wait to hear the rest of that conversation. What are your views, though, on the recent policy conference? Particularly, I mean, there are a number of things we can talk about coming out of it, but what is curious for most people is to hear what the black member of the DA thinks about this issue of race not being a proxy to redress.
So in the first instance, she says she identifies as black, and that it's, yes, while it's a great ideal to have non-racialism, it's going to be very difficult to sell that on the ground, especially ahead of the local government elections, when the lived experience of black people is on the basis of the color of their skin because of the historical injustices in our country. Now, it's very interesting in that bite we've just heard that she was saying political parties often take shape, the shape of the personalities of their leaders, and I think that's a very crucial aspect, especially if you look at what she says she is offering on the table within the DA. She's been quite clear that she's been trying to transform the party from within, and that, you know, issues such as non-racialism and the policy direction that the party takes is equally as crucial. I asked her as well about whether or not, you know, let's say she does win and become leader of the DA, whether she'll be able to now try and sell these very policies that have been adopted. And she's essentially said that she actually doesn't believe that, you know, a few people or a group of people should decide the policy of the organization, number one. But number two, that she's actually written to Helen Zille to have the recent policy outcomes be debated again at the upcoming elective Congress. So certainly a lot of heat coming up within the Democratic Alliance. And it will be very interesting to see how the party manages it, and especially whether or not she will leave. I mean, if she were to leave the Democratic Alliance, it would be confirmation in a lot of people's minds that the DA is no longer a space for black politicians.
Well, you've certainly stirred my interest. I'll be watching, so you've got to catch this exclusive interview tomorrow at 8 p.m. here on Newzroom Afrika, channel 405.